The air inside the galactic combat arena vibrated with noise. Tens of thousands of voices, hissing, roaring, clicking, and growling, merged into a single storm of sound. Metallic banners fluttered above the grandstands, glowing with the symbols of a dozen alien empires. Every seat was full. Every eye stared toward the bright circle of the arena floor. In that circle stood a single human. She was small compared to the giants around her, no taller than their shoulders, wearing a dull gray combat suit that looked almost too light for battle. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Kane, and she was the only human ever allowed to compete in the commander trials. To most of the crowd, she was not a challenger. She was the joke. From the upper balcony, the alien commentator's voice echoed through translators. Next, the human rookie of Earth, Sector 3, may her bravery be remembered. Briefly, the crowd laughed. Their laughter rolled like thunder through the arena. Some banged their claws against the rails. Others shouted strange words that meant, "Easy prey." Sarah did not move. Her helmet visor hid her face, but her breathing was calm, slow, steady. She looked small and fragile beneath the blazing lights, yet she stood perfectly still, as if the chaos around her did not exist. The heavy gate on the far side rumbled open. 3 enormous figures stepped out, one after another. The first was a Raxian war chief, a 6-armed reptile coated in blue armor plates that shimmered like ice. The second, a Voltrax bruiser almost 4 meters tall, carried a warhammer big enough to crush a hover tank. The third, a Nerian tactician, wore no armor at all. Its pale skin glowed faintly, eyes burning white as it reached into her mind with a psychic scan. Together, they were known as the Tri-Commanders, undefeated champions of the trials. Each had fought in wars long before Earth had learned to fly beyond its moon. Now they stood across from a single human rookie. "Contestants ready?" The voice of Commander Zerath, the referee, boomed over the arena. The Raxian clicked his jaws. The Voltrax raised his hammer and laughed, the sound like breaking metal. The Nerian said nothing, but Sarah could feel the whisper of its thoughts brushing against her own. Probing, mocking, confident, she rolled her shoulders once, flexed her hands and whispered beneath her breath, "Ready." The countdown began on the hollow screens above. 10, 9, 8. The crowd chanted along, each number shaking the ground. High in the command box, alien generals leaned forward, already predicting the outcome. Most expected the human to surrender in seconds. Some had bets running on how long she'd last before the first hit landed. 3, 2, 1. A blinding horn blared. The Voltrax charged first. His hammer came down like thunder. The floor cracked. Dust flew into the air, but the hammer hit nothing. Sarah was gone. The crowd blinked, confused. She had moved faster than their eyes could track. One moment she had stood still. The next she was behind the Voltrax, sliding low, her boots carving lines through the dust. The Raxian spun, his claws slicing the air where her head had been. Again she wasn't there. The Nerian's eyes flashed white. Energy waves pulsed outward, scanning for her mind. For a heartbeat, it caught a flicker. Then that flicker split into 2, then 4, then 8. Illusions, decoys. The Nerian hesitated. From above, a faint streak of light flashed. Sarah dropped from mid-air, landing on the Raxian's shoulders, pressing a small device against the armor plate on his neck. A sharp pulse, a blue flash, and the war chief collapsed, limbs twitching. The Voltrax roared in anger, swinging his hammer in wide circles. He hit the ground, the wall, the dust, but not her. Sarah darted between his legs, placed another small disc on his weapon's core. A high-pitched whine filled the air. The hammer exploded in a shower of sparks, knocking the giant backward. 2 down. Only the Nerian remained. Its psychic scream tore through the arena, throwing soldiers off balance. Even the audience covered their ears. The air shimmered as it tried to freeze her mind. For a moment Sarah slowed. The Nerian's lips curled into something like a smile. Then it saw her grin back through the visor. She threw something, a metallic sphere, that rolled across the floor. The Nerian barely looked down before it detonated with a silent flash of white. When the light faded, the psychic stood frozen, eyes dull, its mental field collapsed. The blast had scrambled its neural patterns. The Nerian fell. The arena fell silent. 3 alien commanders, undefeated legends, lay defeated on the ground. The entire fight had lasted less than 7 seconds. No one cheered. No one spoke. Even the translation systems went quiet. High in the stands, Commander Zerath's jaw tightened. His tail twitched once, then froze. He replayed the footage on his wrist holodisplay. Frame by frame, he watched the human move, calculating, surgical, inhumanly fast. This wasn't luck. It was precision. At the center of the arena, Sarah stood among the fallen warriors. Dust drifted slowly around her boots. She looked up at the silent crowd, her visor reflecting the thousands of shocked faces staring down at her. A single voice broke the silence. A small alien cadet whispering, "How? How did she do that?" No one answered. The arena lights dimmed. The holographic scoreboard flickered, and the voice of the commentator returned, trembling. The human rookie has defeated the Tri-Commanders. Gasps filled the stands. Some shouted in disbelief. Others stared in awe, but Sarah didn't celebrate. She simply turned off her weapon and stood still, heartbeat steady, breathing calm. In that quiet, she looked more dangerous than any of the giants she had just defeated. Then, as the camera zoomed in on her visor, the screen faded to black. A calm narrator's voice spoke over the silence. But to understand what happened that day, we must go back to where it all began. The galactic training base Delta 47 floated above a dying red planet, its metal surface shining like a blade under two suns. Inside its endless corridors, soldiers from 50 alien worlds trained, fought, and competed for ranks of honor. Among them walked a single human, Lieutenant Sarah Kane. Her boots echoed softly against the alloy floor as she moved past groups of towering alien cadets who stopped their conversation just to stare at her. Some stared out of curiosity, others with open laughter. Humans were new to the Galactic Alliance, newcomers still learning how to survive beyond their small blue world. Both species saw them as fragile, emotional, too slow to adapt. Sarah had heard it all before. "Hey, soft blood," a reptilian trainee hissed as she passed. "Don't trip on your way to the nursery." Laughter followed her down the hall. She didn't react. Her face stayed calm, eyes forward, every insult recorded but unanswered. She had learned quickly that words were cheap here. Actions were what mattered. But actions had to wait. Sarah's team, Unit Sigma, was led by Commander Zerath, a veteran warrior whose scales bore the scars of 5 wars. He did not like humans. During drills, his cold yellow eyes followed Sarah with clear annoyance. "You move like a hatchling," he often said. "Too much thought, not enough instinct." Each word was like a knife, but she only nodded and kept training. Every night, long after others left the combat hall, she stayed behind. The training chamber was huge and empty, its air filled with the faint hum of grav field stabilizers. She stood alone at the center, wearing her standard exosuit, its sensors linked to a holographic combat simulator. The screen lit up, spawning enemies of different species, each moving faster and hitting harder than the last. "Program level 3, she commanded. The machine beeped. "Warning, no human has cleared level 3. Proceed?" "Proceed," she said quietly. The battle began. Drones charged at her, glowing blades cutting through the air. Sarah moved, dodging, blocking, countering. She was fast, faster than any human had the right to be. Sweat ran down her face, but her movements were sharp, efficient. 10 minutes later, the screen blinked green. Level 3 cleared. She didn't stop. Level 4. Hours passed. By the time the hall lights dimmed for curfew, Sarah stood over a pile of smoking drone shells. The system displayed the impossible. Level 9 complete. No other species had ever attempted that. But no one saw it. The others were asleep or bragging in the mess hall. Sarah sat on the floor, breathing hard, her arms trembling. In the silence, her hand brushed the small metallic implant hidden behind her ear. A neural reflex link, one of humanity's newest technologies. It didn't make her stronger. It didn't cheat. It only made the link between her thoughts and actions almost instant. The implant read intent faster than nerves could move. But Sarah knew even that wasn't enough. The implant could guide her hands, not her judgment. For that, she had to train her mind. Over the next weeks, the jokes continued. "Human speed won't save you," one alien said during meal break. "You'll freeze the moment you see real blood." Sarah ignored him. She focused on watching. Every move her teammates made, every mistake they repeated. She studied how different species fought, how Raxians always opened with their upper left strike, how Voltrax soldiers turned too slowly after heavy attacks, how Nirians paused for half a second before psychic output. She remembered everything. She didn't just train muscles, she trained her instincts to predict. One night, as the twin suns dipped below the planet's edge, Commander Zerath caught her still practicing. "Still here?" he asked, tail flicking behind him. "The others finished hours ago." Sarah didn't stop. "I need more time," she said between breaths. Zerath gave a low growl. "You humans, always trying to prove something." He leaned closer, his voice low and mocking. "Do you think effort can replace evolution?" Sarah looked up, her voice steady. "No, but maybe intelligence can." Zerath stared at her for a long second before walking away, shaking his head. But deep inside, something about her answer stayed with him. The next morning, the challenge came. During the tactical drills, Zerath announced the upcoming Commander Trials, an event where only the best cadets could face ranked officers in combat. It was meant for elite aliens, not rookies. But before anyone else volunteered, Sarah raised her hand. The entire room went silent. "Permission to enter," she said clearly. The aliens burst into laughter. One cadet nearly fell off his chair. Zerath blinked, then smiled, a rare, sharp expression. "You?" he asked. "Against who?" "Anyone," she said. "Anyone willing to fight me." 3 commanders stepped forward almost immediately, their armor glinting under the training hall lights. A Raxian, a Voltrax, and a Nirian, each a decorated veteran. "We'll fight the human," one of them said, grinning. "All 3 of us. It'll be fun." The hall erupted in cheers and mocking applause. "The human wants to die quickly," someone shouted. Zerath turned to her, voice heavy with sarcasm. "Accepted. Match scheduled for this weekend. Prepare yourself, Lieutenant Kane. Try not to cry." Sarah nodded once. "I won't." That night she sat alone in her quarters, staring at the small hollow photo of her brother back on Earth. His recorded message played softly. "They'll laugh until they lose. Sarah, show them who we are." She smiled faintly, eyes steady, then opened her digital tablet filled with data logs, movement analysis, combat recordings, weapon blueprints. While others celebrated her upcoming funeral match, she studied every enemy, every move, every weakness. She didn't need strength to win. She only needed one chance, just 1 second per target. When she finally closed her eyes, dawn was already breaking across the station walls. The laughter of the others echoed faintly from the corridor, but she didn't hear it anymore. For Sarah Kane, the joke was almost over. The day before the trials, the corridors of Delta 47 buzzed with rumors. Everywhere Sarah Kane walked, eyes followed her. Some were amused, others curious, but most were certain she wouldn't survive even a minute in the arena. 3 commanders at once, one alien whispered. "That's not bravery. That's suicide." Sarah heard them, but she didn't respond. She had learned to let silence do the talking. She spent that morning in the weapon bay, standing before the racks of energy rifles, pulse grenades, and EMP rounds. The quartermaster, a bulky insectoid named Drivler, watched her scan the options. "You can't use anything bigger than standard issue," he said. "Commander's armor will crush you before you get close." Sarah smiled faintly. "Then I won't need to get close." She picked up a compact sidearm, no bigger than her hand, and a small set of silver discs, experimental EMP nodes. Drivler tilted his head, clicking in confusion. "You think you'll win with toys?" "Not toys," she said softly. "Tools." She walked out without another word. Hours later, she was back in the simulator room. The lights flickered blue as she entered the program. Combat reflex training, human neural response test. Her reflection appeared in the screen for a moment, eyes tired but focused. "Begin." The virtual opponents spawned instantly, 3 holographic commanders mimicking the ones she would face. Their moves were fast, brutal, almost impossible to counter. The first blow missed her by inches, the second grazed her armor, the third knocked her off balance. She didn't panic. She analyzed. Every strike, every feint, every rhythm, she learned their timing. The key was not to be stronger, but to be ahead. Her implant hummed behind her ear, connecting thought to motion, making every instinct immediate. The neural reflex link wasn't military issue. It was experimental, born from a hidden human lab called Project Lightning Mind. Only a handful of soldiers had been tested with it, and Sarah was one of them. It didn't enhance muscle. It rewired reaction. It read intent before the body acted. To most, that advantage was too dangerous. The mind could move faster than the body could handle. But Sarah had trained for years to control it. She learned to slow her thoughts just enough, to match the rhythm of action and instinct. To anyone else it was chaos. To her it was clarity. As the simulation reset again and again, she moved smoother, sharper, until the holographic commanders couldn't touch her. The system flickered and displayed a message in red. Warning, reflex latency approaching non-standard thresholds. Sarah ignored it. Continue. She fought until the machine overheated and shut down, sparks rising from its vents. When the lights went out, she stood in silence, chest heaving, sweat dripping down her neck. She looked at her trembling hands, not from fear but from adrenaline. The human body wasn't built for such speed, but she was willing to pay the cost. Later, she sat on her bunk staring at a datapad full of tactical maps and combat recordings. Each alien species had its rhythm, predictable patterns hidden in their movements. The Raxian commander, for instance, always opened with a twin swipe followed by a spin. The Voltrax bruiser had enormous power, but turned too slow after each swing. The Nerian tactician depended on eye contact to guide its psychic link. If she broke that for even a second, it would falter. She repeated the data like a mantra. Every weakness was a door waiting to be opened. Every door a victory waiting to happen. Her roommate, a young Avrian cadet with feathered hair, watched her from the other side of the room. "You really think you can beat them?" she asked quietly. Sarah didn't look up. "Thinking isn't the problem," she said. "They all think faster than me, but they react slower." The cadet frowned. "You humans are strange." Sarah gave a half smile. "That's why we survive." When lights out hit, the entire station fell into silence. Sarah lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the life support systems. She replayed the fight in her head again and again, timing every step, every breath. There would be no second chance. She had to win, not for pride, not for Earth, but to prove one thing, that humans belonged here. Somewhere deep in the station, Commander Zerath reviewed the upcoming match list. When he saw her name beside the Tri-Commanders, he snorted. "Foolish," he muttered. "Humans never learn." But when he looked at her file, the training records, the impossible simulator results, he paused for just a moment. Then he dismissed the thought. "Statistics glitch," he told himself. "No human moves that fast." The night before the battle, Sarah prepared her armor piece by piece. She adjusted the energy seals, tested her weapons charge, and locked the EMP discs onto her belt. She looked calm, but inside her pulse raced. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of wasting the chance she had trained for her entire life. As she sealed her helmet, her comm beeped. A short message flashed across her visor, encrypted and unsigned. Just one line: "Trust your mind." That's faster than light. She didn't know who sent it. Maybe someone from Project Lightning Mind was watching. Maybe it was a glitch. Either way, it made her smile. The next morning, as the alarms rang across the station and soldiers gathered for the trials, Sarah stood in the locker bay, silent while others shouted and joked around her. Her fingers brushed the implant one last time. The metal felt warm under her skin. "This is it," she whispered. "Time to stop being the rookie." Outside, the great doors of the arena began to open, light spilling through the cracks. The crowd was already roaring. Sarah stepped forward without hesitation. The hidden advantage behind... Her calm eyes flickered to life, ready to show the galaxy what a human mind could really do. The morning of the commander trials began with the echo of alarms across Galactic Base. Delta 47, the metallic corridors, glowed orange as thousands of cadets marched toward the grand arena. The trials were the highlight of the year, where the strongest warriors of each species proved their worth before generals and warlords. For most, it was entertainment. For Sarah Kane, it was Judgment Day. She walked through the crowd in silence, her light armor reflecting the twin suns filtering through the transparent ceiling. Aliens around her whispered and laughed as she passed. "There she is," someone said. "The human rookie who thinks she can fight commanders." Another voice added, "Better prepare a stretcher." Sarah ignored them. Her helmet was tucked under her arm, her eyes straight ahead, face calm but unreadable. Inside, her heart pounded like a drum. She could already hear the muffled roar of the arena far beyond the gates. Commander Zerath stood at the entrance, arms crossed, his scaly jaw set in a smirk. You actually showed up, he said. I thought humans preferred talking instead of fighting. Sarah met his gaze without flinching. You'll see what we prefer soon enough. Zerath's smirk faded slightly. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You know what happens in there, don't you? No training safeties, no mercy. You're challenging 3 of the deadliest beings in the sector. You won't last 10 seconds. Sarah placed her helmet on, the visor sealing with a soft hiss. Then I'll make those 10 seconds count. Without waiting for his reply, she stepped past him and into the waiting bay. Inside, the air buzzed with energy. 3 figures stood at the far end of the chamber, already in armor. The first was the Raxian war chief, his 6 arms crossed over his chest, blue scales gleaming. The second, the massive Voltrax bruiser, stood polishing his hammer with a grin sharp as broken glass. The third, the pale Nerian tactician, floated slightly above the floor, psychic energy rippling around him like smoke. They turned as she entered, and the Voltrax laughed. This is the human. I thought they were taller, the Raxian added, or at least heavier. I could crush her by accident. The Nerian's voice echoed directly into her mind, cold and slow. You do not belong here, human. Leave before we make an example of you. Sarah's voice came out calm and clear. Then make one. The Raxian hissed in amusement. Brave words from soft flesh. Zerath's voice echoed from the speaker above. All participants, prepare for transfer to the main arena. The room began to shake as the floor platform activated, lifting them upward. Through the rising smoke and flashing lights, Sarah could see glimpses of the crowd above. Thousands of alien spectators roaring with excitement. The commanders stretched their limbs, rolling their shoulders, preparing for what they thought would be an easy win. Sarah simply flexed her hands once, feeling the pulse of the neural implant hum behind her ear. Her world narrowed to focus and silence. The platform stopped with a metallic clang. The arena above them unfolded like a storm of sound. The sand-covered floor shimmered under the blazing artificial sun. Towering walls encircled them, covered with glowing banners of different alien species. The crowd's cheers grew deafening. The commentator's voice boomed through the translator system. Behold the first human to ever enter the commander trials. Lieutenant Sarah Kane of Earth, facing not 1 but 3 veteran commanders. The crowd erupted in laughter. Sarah's name echoed through the noise, mixed with jeers and mocking tones. From the stands, someone shouted, "Fragile creature, you'll break before you blink." She didn't look up. She didn't need to. She focused only on the opponents before her, watching every small motion, every detail. The Raxian's claws twitched slightly when he was impatient. The Voltrax tapped his hammer twice before charging. The Nerian blinked slower than the others, perhaps a sign of psychic focus delay. Every movement was information, and Sarah was collecting it. The commentator continued, "The match begins on the referee's mark. Death is not intended, but accidents happen." The crowd laughed again. Commander Zerath appeared on the holoscreen above, looking down from the control booth. "Contestants, ready yourselves." The commanders nodded, their armor locking with sharp metallic clicks. Sarah's own armor hummed quietly, a system synced to her neural link. Her pulse quickened, but her breathing slowed. She whispered under her breath, "Let's see who underestimates who." Zerath raised his clawed hand, then slashed it down. "Begin!" The Voltrax let out a roar that shook the ground and charged forward like a living tank. The sand exploded beneath his feet. Sarah didn't move, not yet. The Raxian leaped from the left, claws slicing through the air. The Nerian raised his glowing hand, psychic energy forming a web aimed at her nervous system. To the audience it looked like certain death, but in Sarah's mind time slowed. The implant linked her thoughts directly to action. The world became clear, sharp, silent. She saw every attack before it landed, the trajectory, the timing, the pattern. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Then, in a blur, she moved. The first 7 seconds would decide everything. The human rookie no one believed in was about to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. Night fell across Galactic Base Delta 47 like a blanket of metal and silence. The training halls were empty now, the laughter and noise of the day fading into the low hum of the station's engines. Most cadets were asleep, dreaming of glory or comfort, but one light still burned inside the human quarters. Lieutenant Sarah Kane sat alone on her bunk, her armor pieces laid neatly beside her like loyal soldiers waiting for orders. The hum of the artificial night surrounded her, steady and cold. On the small table before her floated a hologram, blue light flickering to reveal the face of a young man smiling. "Her brother." "Message playback," said the soft AI voice. Then his voice filled the room, warm and human in a world that often forgot what humanity sounded like. "Hey, sis," he said with a grin. "I saw the match list. You're really doing it, huh? 3 alien commanders? You never do anything halfway." His tone shifted, quieter. "They'll never see it coming, Sarah. Do what you do best. Think faster." The message ended with static. Sarah stared at the fading hologram until the light died out. She didn't smile, didn't frown. She just breathed slowly, the calm before the storm settling over her like armor. Her reflection stared back from the window, earthborn eyes surrounded by steel. In the distance, the red planet turned beneath the base, glowing faintly through the clouds. She whispered to herself, "Not faster, smarter." Then she opened her datapad again. Lines of tactical notes and combat recordings filled the screen. She replayed the footage of her 3 opponents over and over. The Raxian, aggressive, always leading with the upper left claw strike but vulnerable after it. The Voltrax, powerful, unstoppable straight ahead, but his momentum made him blind to side movement. The Nerian, deadly at range, but his psychic link broke for 1 second whenever he switched mental targets. She wrote notes for each, memorized their rhythms, their timing, their pride. Pride she realized was their real weakness. They were certain she was beneath them. They wouldn't adapt fast enough when she surprised them. That would be her window. 1 second each, 1 opening per target. That was all she needed. Hours passed. The base's lights dimmed further, and silence took over. Outside, patrol drones floated past her window, their red eyes sweeping across the halls. Sarah stretched her hands, feeling the faint vibration from the neural implant behind her ear. It pulsed gently, matching her heartbeat. "We've come a long way for this," she murmured. It was true. Humans had been ignored, dismissed, laughed at since they joined the Galactic Alliance. Too emotional, too fragile, too primitive. But humans had always been underestimated, and that was their weapon. From Earth's first explorers to this moment, humanity had never been the strongest, but they had always been the most stubborn, and Sarah Kane was the proof of that. She rose and began to assemble her gear again. Her armor locked around her piece by piece, small hisses of air sealing the joints. She moved with quiet precision, checking each system, each weapon. Her compact sidearm hummed softly, energy levels full. The EMP discs blinked in steady rhythm on her belt. She double-checked the neural sync calibration. "Connection stable," said her armor's onboard AI. "Reaction delay 0.01 seconds. She nodded. "Good, that's all I need." When everything was ready, she sat again, letting the silence wash over her. She thought of Earth. Blue skies, rain, wind, things no one here cared about. She thought of her brother's words. "They'll never see it coming." She thought of all the laughter, all the insults, all the disbelief. It didn't make her angry. It made her steady. Fear turned to focus, doubt turned to fuel. Somewhere above her quarters, the crowd of alien soldiers still celebrated and joked about the upcoming fight. They called it the rookie's funeral. Some even placed bets on how quickly she'd fall. Sarah didn't care. Let them laugh. Every laugh was one more distraction, one more blind spot in her enemy's mind. She looked at her wrist display, the timer blinking slowly. 8 hours until the trials. She could rest, but her body refused. So she trained her breathing instead. In, out, slow, controlled, just like combat. Every breath counted. Every heartbeat breathing instead, in, out, slow, controlled, just like combat. Every breath counted. Every heartbeat measured. When the alarm finally beeped softly, signaling morning rotation, Sarah stood, her mind clear as glass. She walked to the mirror one last time, her reflection shining in the faint light. The human rookie. The outsider. The joke. But her eyes, calm, focused, unshaken, told a different story. She placed her helmet on, sealing it with a click. The HUD flickered to life, glowing faint blue. "Ready," she whispered. As she left her quarters, she didn't look back. The corridor was empty, the floor lights guiding her toward the elevator that led to the arena. The hum of the bass grew louder, like the heartbeat of something enormous. Above her, thousands of alien voices were already gathering. Somewhere in the control room, Commander Zerath reviewed the roster and laughed quietly. "Poor human," he muttered. "She doesn't even know what's waiting for her." But if he could have seen her face beneath that helmet, he would have stopped laughing. Her calm wasn't ignorance, it was the silence of a storm before it strikes. As the elevator doors closed, Sarah's hand brushed the small photo of her brother, stored inside her armor's pocket. She whispered one last thing, barely audible. They laughed first. I'll let them. Then the platform began to rise, carrying her toward the light, the roar, and the beginning of everything. The arena shook with thunder as the gates opened. Blinding light spilled into the chamber where Sarah Kane waited, her helmet reflecting the gleam of the twin suns above the combat field. The noise hit her like a wave, thousands of alien voices screaming, chanting, roaring in anticipation. The Commander trials had begun, and every creature in the Galactic Alliance wanted to see the human rookie fall. The massive doors slid apart, and she stepped out into the open, the sand crunching under her boots. Across from her, 3 shadows emerged from the opposite gate, towering figures draped in armor and pride. The Raxian war chief moved. First, his 6 arms stretching, claws scraping the air with a metallic hiss. The Voltrax bruiser followed, muscles rippling under heavy armor, as he dragged a warhammer that left deep scars in the ground. Above them hovered the Nerian tactician, surrounded by a faint halo of psychic light, its eyes white and empty, its expression unreadable. The crowd roared louder. Let the commanders show the galaxy the meaning of dominance, boomed the announcer's voice through the speakers. And let the human remember her place. Sarah said nothing. Her visor dimmed to reduce the glare. The AI in her suit whispered softly in her ear, "Combat synchronization active. Neural link stable." Her breathing slowed. Her hands hung loosely by her sides. The commanders spread out, forming a wide triangle around her. The sand swirled, heat shimmering from the artificial sunlight. Then Commander Zereth's voice cut through the chaos. "Begin." The Voltrax roared and charged forward, each footstep like a small quake. The Raxian leaped high, claws ready to strike. The Nerian's psychic energy flared, forming invisible threads meant to paralyze her mind. The crowd leaned forward, expecting the fight to end before it began. But Sarah didn't move. Not yet, she watched. She calculated. Time stretched inside her head, every sound slowing, every movement becoming clear and sharp. The implant pulsed behind her ear, once, twice, and the world seemed to fall into rhythm with her heartbeat. When the Voltrax's hammer came down, she moved. A blur of grey and sand. Her body dropped low, rolling beneath the hammer's swing. The weapon smashed into the ground, the shockwave throwing dust into the air, blinding the crowd's view. In that split-second cover, Sarah was already behind him. She planted an EMP disc on the power coil of his armor and darted away. The Voltrax turned, confused. Where he started, but the rest vanished in a flash of blue light as his armor systems overloaded. He fell to one knee, the hammer dropping from his grasp. The audience gasped. The Raxian struck next, claws slashing horizontally. Sarah ducked, but one claw grazed her shoulder, sparks flying as it scraped against her armor. Pain shot through her side, but she didn't slow. She stepped forward instead of back, catching the Raxian off guard. Her left hand snapped upward, striking his secondary jaw joint, forcing his head to tilt. In the same motion, her right hand pressed another EMP disc beneath his neckplate. A pulse erupted. The Raxian froze mid-strike, armor locking up as the EMP scrambled his motor circuits. He hit the ground with a heavy thud. The crowd's laughter turned to uneasy murmurs. 2 down. The Nerian's psychic energy intensified, waves of invisible force rippling through the air. Sarah's vision flickered as the pressure hit her mind like a storm. The Nerian's voice slithered into her thoughts. "You are nothing, stop." Her body trembled, her knees bending under the strain. She could feel her neural implant fighting the psychic interference, sparks of static buzzing in her skull. For a moment she almost fell. The Nerian floated closer, certain of victory. "Sleep, human," it whispered into her mind. "You cannot fight thought." But then Sarah smiled. Her voice, quiet and calm, echoed through the comm channel. "Who said I'm thinking?" In one motion, she reached to her belt, yanked the last EMP disc and hurled it straight at the Nerian. The alien's telekinetic field deflected it easily, but that was the trick. The disc wasn't aimed at the alien itself. It hit the ground beneath, activating a timed pulse that bounced off the arena's magnetic walls. The field distorted, refracting back toward the Nerian like a mirror. The psychic's own energy turned against him, slamming into his body with invisible force. Its glow faltered. Its eyes went wide with shock. The crowd gasped as the Nerian dropped from the air, landing hard on the sand, motionless. Silence followed. A silence so heavy it drowned out even the hum of the arena's generators. Dust drifted through the air, catching the light like golden mist. Sarah stood at the center, surrounded by 3 fallen commanders. Her breathing was calm, her stance steady. The fight had lasted exactly 7 seconds. The holographic scoreboard flickered, scanning the results. Then it displayed the impossible. Winner, human rookie, Lieutenant Sarah Kane. The audience didn't cheer. Not yet, they couldn't. They were still trying to understand what they had just seen. Commander Zerath's mouth hung open, his tail frozen mid-twitch. The commentators stammered, struggling for words. In record time, she has defeated all 3. Sarah turned slowly, her visor reflecting the sea of stunned faces. For a brief moment, no one moved. Then somewhere high in the stands, a single alien voice shouted, "Impossible!" Another hissed, "Replay it!" The holographic replay began on the big screen, showing her movements in slow motion. Each step, each strike, precise and lightning fast. The crowd gasped with every frame. Sarah looked up at the screen once, then turned away. She holstered her weapon, dusted off her armor, and walked toward the exit gate without a word. The silence followed her like a shadow. Behind her, the alien commanders still lay defeated, the once proud symbols of galactic superiority reduced to disbelief. As she crossed the threshold, the announcer finally found his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, the impossible has just happened. The human has won." The crowd erupted, a mix of cheers, anger, and awe. But Sarah didn't hear it. Inside her helmet, she whispered softly, almost to herself, 7 seconds. Then she disappeared into the corridor beyond, leaving behind the arena of giants and the legend she had just begun. The shock spread across the galaxy like a solar flare. Within minutes, the footage of the human rookie defeating 3 alien commanders flooded every network, every data feed, every comm channel. The replay loops became the most viewed event in Alliance history. In bars and command centers, aboard ships and colonies, everyone watched in disbelief as a single human, a species long mocked for weakness, took down 3 elite warriors in under 7 seconds. Some cheered, others called it fake, but no one could look away. On the outer rim stations, soldiers gathered around holoscreens, whispering, "That human?" "How?" one asked. "No one moves like that," another replied. On Raxian Prime, the war clans raged, demanding vengeance for the humiliation of their champion. The Voltrax legions called it a glitch in the arena's field, a technical malfunction. The Nerian Mind Council went silent, refusing to comment. And on Earth, blue, quiet, far away, people stayed up all night watching their world's name flash across alien news networks. Human victory at Delta 47. For the first time in centuries, humanity wasn't invisible. In the command tower of the station, Commander Zerath stood before the viewing screen, his claws tapping against the metal floor. His second-in-command spoke carefully. "Should we disqualify her, Commander?" Zerath didn't answer at first. His golden eyes glowed faintly as he replayed the match again. Every frame showed the same thing. No tricks, no interference. Just precision, just skill. "No," he said finally, his voice low. "No excuses. She won," the officer blinked, "but she's human." Zerath turned sharply, his tail snapping through the air. "Exactly," he said. "That's why this changes everything." Down below, Sarah sat alone in the debriefing chamber, her armor half removed, her body bruised but steady. The room was small, dimly lit by the cold blue of the debrief AI's holoprojector. "Lieutenant Kane," the voice said. "Analysis complete. Probability of success in initial projection, 0.003%. Sarah smirked faintly. "Guess we beat the odds." "Correction," said the AI. "You destroyed them." She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. Her body ached from the neural feedback. The implant had burned hot during the Nerian psychic attack, leaving a faint scar at the base of her neck. But it didn't matter, it worked. A soft beep sounded as the door opened. A tall alien figure entered, the arena supervisor, a thin insectoid being with translucent skin and glowing eyes. "Lieutenant Kane," it said in a rasping voice, "the Galactic Council requests your presence." Sarah looked up, surprised. "Now." "Immediately." The supervisor stepped aside as 2 honor guards appeared. their armor marked with the Council's insignia. As they escorted her through the metallic corridors, the sound of murmurs followed everywhere they went. Soldiers and technicians stopped what they were doing just to stare. Some bowed slightly, others whispered in disbelief. She could feel their eyes on her back, curiosity, fear, respect, maybe even hope. When she entered the council chamber, 12 towering holograms surrounded her, each representing a different species. The air shimmered with authority. The central hologram, a being made of pure light, the council speaker, addressed her. "Lieutenant Sarah Kane of Earth," it began, "your performance in the commander trials has disrupted centuries of hierarchy." "I just fought a match," Sarah replied simply. The speaker's light pulsed. "You did more than that. You proved that humans are not to be dismissed. Do you understand what this means?" Sarah folded her hands behind her back. "It means you all underestimated us." A murmur rippled through the chamber. One counselor, a bulky Raxian, growled, "It means nothing. She exploited luck. The trials are not meant for humans." Another voice, cold and sharp, replied, "Luck does not move faster than a Voltrax hammer." The debate grew louder, but Sarah stayed silent, watching them argue. They were afraid. Not of her strength, but of what she represented. A change in the balance of power. Finally, the speaker's voice cut through. "Enough.